Pippa York. Pippa's going to be with me right the way through to Friday, which takes us, of course, through to, well, the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics as well, which is going to be, well, we are going to be here at Eurosport, the home of the Olympics, for the next 3 weeks, of course. It's going to be fascinating, not just the cycling, but absolutely everything. That time of every 4 years, isn't it, Pippa, where we get to see sports that otherwise we might not necessarily see and get to revel in whatever our home nations are doing in them too.
Yeah, I just saw, so I met in Chiswick at Warner Brothers offices and then the headquarters, and yeah, there's a lot of Olympic activity going on. There's a lot of new faces and people being briefed on. I heard a bit of a discussion about skateboarding for somebody. So yeah, there's quite a mix in here today.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be based there myself this weekend, covering kind of hosting the swimming of all things this weekend. So I've been doing my research, and it made me realise, Pippa, how lucky we are with cycling. We've really only got one big peloton of riders to focus on at any one time. At a swimming meet, there are so many, qualifying rounds, and then semi-finals, and then the finals, and then amongst them it's the men and then the women, and every different distance. It's no wonder that when you look at Olympic medals won over the years, that swimming sort of dominates those medal charts, because there are so many medals to be won. Anyway,
yep.
Let's get back to the cycling, because De Wilde looking like he's coming to the end of his climbing tether, maybe.
Yeah, he was looking rather tired before we got here, and yeah, now there's only one on the left, two in the front, which makes the peloton's job a lot easier. But still over 3 minutes to close for them. Group 2 must be the Trentin group, so they're coming closer. But I imagine they might even lose a rider on this climb.
True. So as you can see, we've got 28k to go. This is that chasing group. I look down to my watch. We should see the timing come up, and I notice I haven't even started my watch. That's the kind of numpty I am. We'll go with the bottom left. 250. It's still big.
Wow.
What do you reckon, Pippa York? What do you think? With a lap to go, I know it's a long way to go, but do you think they can hang out there?
I think the best chance is Trentin. I can see these three, so the Trentin group and Mope Lopez going back to the peloton. I can see them getting caught. Whether these two fall apart, it's hard to say. You can see how much of a struggle it is for them. But, if you look here, that Krosnoff's put his teammates on the front. So if they charge into this, the minutes can disappear really quickly.
Absolutely. This is the col de Usia. And they're into the steepest section now, where it touches 14%. Matteo Trentin, the Italian rider, former European champion, former Tour de France stage winner, now riding for the Swiss Tudor Pro cycling team, looking round. He and Juanpe Lopez have put a lot into this on this expected Queen stage into La Roche-en-Ardenne. Boris Detier is doing a really good ride, Pippa, too, isn't he, in there?
I think that I think they've realised that they're going back to the peloton. They've dangled 20-30 seconds in front for almost a whole lap, and realised that they're going to be caught. So he's up on the steepest part, and then hope they can follow, on that long false flat at the top.
This is a peloton, though, that's swelling and then thinning with every descent and every climb, isn't it, as well? It's now looked like it's the biggest I've seen that peloton look for quite a while. So there are little groups getting back on every time. And maybe Floris Detier is making an offering here, going, I'll tell you what, you can have these two big GC hitters. If you just let me go, go on, have them. Just you have them. I'm just going to be up here. Don't worry me. I'm not sure they'll have it.
It's probably more like a panic to get over the really steep part for,
yeah,
before the peloton gets them, and the decathlon riders, put everybody in the gutter again.
Let's have a look how many teammates Benoit Cosnefroid's got left. That's the interesting thing to see. He's got a couple, hasn't he, by the looks of it?
Yeah, and he was sitting at about 10th position, just kind of watching what was happening.
That's Detier being caught, and that is Trentin and Lopez being caught. So there's two riders who could well have featured at the back end of this stage, and well might yet, but they have they've expended a fair few kilojoules in there in that effort, Pippa. I wonder whether we might look back and see that was in vain for, two riders who were both in the top 10 and just outside it as well in Juan Lopez.
Yeah, they're going to have to recover now, and hopefully there's no really big giant accelerations that's going to really hurt them. You can see Juan Lopez was really struggling there just as he got caught by this group.
Standerwolf was one of the two riders at the front. There still is by the looks of it. We did have Dries de Bont also aiding the chase from Decathlon, but I think they've burnt up quite a few riders now. The boys in the Galaxy green and blue. Looks like we have Jordan Labrosse sitting second wheel too. What I can't see is where Cosnefroy is though. Unless I've missed something. My pictures are a little bit hazy. I must admit we're losing sort of quality of pictures in amongst the hills here, but
he was about 10th position.
Oh, there's a gap in that group already.
Yeah, I think that's Cosnefroy behind the if we look behind might be Mick van Dijk and from
Yeah, by the looks of it, if anything, there's quite a few riders sitting on following Cosnefroy. So we've got a little bubble behind him there. Back end again is getting shredded. We see quite a few of those riders we're looking at right now will probably still get their way on again in the next descent. That's what we've seen the last the last lap. It looks like Andreas Kron in
those three.
Yeah, it's interesting though because he's going with one of the Decathlon Ashes Desert men as well. I wonder whether maybe Benoit Cosnefroy is not feeling quite as good as he was. He would normally be paying a bit more closer attention to the front. Well, there's gaps opening up in front of him. I wonder if that's a sign.
I think it was like Trump was being dropped from the kind of leading part of the peloton. I don't think they were off the front.
No, couldn't see Corbin Strong in there that time. We will just keep an eye on it though, because it's still quite a big group. Again, we're into that point where it's been difficult today to link up pictures. So sorry, everybody at home. I think we're probably going to look down on the beautiful interlocking hills of the valley that rises up from the Orth River, going northwards now away from our Finnish town of La Roche-en-Ardenne. This gives me a chance maybe to work in my plat du jour and boisson du jour, the food and drink of the day, Pippa, and you can, I'm sure, let us know what you think of these two. Someone mentioned it, I can't remember who now, I do apologise, on X last night, saying it's got to be, plat du jour for Wednesday has to be Liège waffle. And I can tell something, I have not nicked it from them, that's exactly what it is. Classic, no nonsense, massive Liège waffle with fresh, basically made with a fresh, very hot waffle iron and served with vanilla ice cream melting into it. And you don't need, I just don't think, if you get it right, I don't know what you think, Pippa, we don't need to add fruit to it and crushed nuts and things like that. Just vanilla ice cream and a really good waffle.
Maybe a little bit of chocolate sauce on the top.
Yeah.
Or what they call hagel, as the Dutch call it, so kind of chocolate sprinkles.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So quite often they would be vanilla ice cream with what they call hagel.
I know the stuff.
Yeah.
They're like little, they're almost like chocolate dressing.
Chocolate vermicelli they are.
Yeah, I know the stuff. Looks like a little box of mouse droppings.
Yeah, if you say so.
Yeah, just don't confuse your kitchen box of mouse droppings that you've got with your chocolate sprinkles. Anyway, we'll need to wash that. We'll need to wash the mouse droppings down with something. And why not the boisson du jour, my boisson du jour of the day, of course it's of the day, it's du jour, any of the sparkling rosés from Vin de Liège, which I looked up and found. It's from specifically the Domaine du Vin de Liège, founded in 2011, and it turns out, apparently, from what I can read, the reviews and what have you, rather nice. Wallonian wines, ideal for a post-lunch chill. Their sparkling rosé is from the 12-hectare, I'm reading this from my aforementioned notes, sparkling rosé from the 12-hectare vineyard at Le Romain just north of Liège itself, so quite a bit further north of here, but certainly a Liège-Bastogne-Liège inspired. You couldn't really call that lunch, could you? A Liège waffle and a glass of sparkling rosé. But for a warm afternoon like this, it would be a nice refresher, Pippa, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be around about 3:30, 4 o'clock. But for lunch, if you had that, you'd be in a big treat. It would seem a bit greedy, a bit spoiling yourself.
Yes.
You could see from the shots there that you don't realise how hilly this part of Belgium is. It looks quite mountainous. So
yeah.
And when you travel here, so if you travel in, from the south and from France, you pass quite a lot of areas where they have cross-country skiing. So then you realise it is, probably about 600 meters high, and in this winter it's snowed in,
yeah,
quite badly. Well, not quite badly if you're trying to travel anywhere, and good if you want to go skiing.
Yeah. Yes, it's. I think it's a myth, particularly amongst. Dare I say it, and I guess over the years we've both mixed with far too many of them, but British bike riders that, if you go to race in Belgium, then you're racing on the flat, it's flat and fast. They might be talking about certain parts of the north of Belgium and Flanders, and certainly close to the coast, but the further you go this way, the more, and you're right, to use that term, mountainous it gets, the interlocking hills either side of the rivers and the gorges as well, it's quite different. Of course, we're right up against the border with Luxembourg here, as we have been all day today. They've gone through on the route Houffalize, which was always a stronghold on the mountain bike World Cup circuit for years, particularly through the 90s and into the noughties. It doesn't seem to be used quite so much anymore. But certainly these hills, you mentioned earlier Namur, where we went through yesterday, and the ride up to the Citadel there. Yeah, but that's, of course, that is one of the strongholds of cyclocross in Belgium, in the whole of Belgium. In actual fact, that race at the Namur circuit was the European Championships last year for cyclocross there, and really using the hills and the tough terrain wisely, including that cobbled climb up to the Citadel as well, which tends to feature in the cyclocross course. And I know, as you say, it's featured in the Tour de Wallonie one-day race as well.
I think Michael, if I remember correctly, is that Michael Van Torenhout, who's here, won the Euros, won the European Championship.
Yeah.
So that was the top of the climb there, with 24 kilometers to go. So the lead two are over the top of that hill.
Well, the gap is coming down a bit. A lot of effort being put in here by Decathlon Agi de Zella Mondial. Here's Lorenzo Rota sitting over to the left-hand side of Intermarché Wanty. Still a pretty big group, though, considering the pressure that's been laid on and how hard these climbs are as well. So I wonder whether there's players in here that we're really yet to mention, Pippa, that we've not picked up on. Here we go. Next attack coming from Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe.
I think this is Frederick Mondal. He was in the, he's been following the most on the climbs before. So I'm not sure there's that many riders in the group. 25,
no, you're right.
Maybe.
Actually, looking back, it is smaller, isn't it? That's interesting. Notes Bastion is the Eritrean road race champion. He's hanging in really well, showing his quality, bearing in mind that he was fifth in that sprint yesterday. This is one of the Airbnb riders as well, who's now giving it a go. This is coming towards the top of the climb. He might be running out, actually, of time to do this, because he might still have another K or so to go to the top. I'm still now struggling to work out how far up we are.
Well, that shot we saw there, before when the lead two went through, that was the top of the climb. And these guys should be about there by now. But as I said before, the problem with the climbs here is that when you're struggling is that you go up over the steep part and it doesn't go downhill straight away. There's always a kind of plateau over the top. And if it's windy, there's usually a bit of side wind. But luckily today for the riders, there isn't too much wind.
No, but even if there had been, the tree growth up here in these interlocking hills is so thick that.
Yeah, on these parts it's okay, but as soon as you come out of them and into the kind of usually onto a bigger road that gutter for ages.
Jimmy Janssens is doing a very good job of working his way up in that King of the Mountains classification. So he was first over the top of the Col d'Ucia this time. Another 10 points for him at the top of that first category climb. So that's 20. It will come down to a battle between him and Johan Jacobs for the day in terms of who has the most. And my maths is not quite up on that. Johan Jacobs started the day with 12 points after yesterday's breakaway efforts. He's picked up at least another 20 today, so he should be safe. Let's see if Jimmy Janssens can survive to the Côte de Mabourge. I hate to say it, Pippa, I think that Côte de Mabourge, the final climb today, is going to be absolutely awful, bearing in mind how hard it's been so far. I think it will be really interesting to see what's left coming over the top of that, because they've got the big long descent now off the back of the Ucia. They've yet got that sprint point to come to, haven't we? And this time through the Proximus radar sprint as well, that draggy uphill one as well. We must keep our eyes peeled for that, see if we can be the first people this week to actually work out who on earth got it.
I reckon it's one of those things where, you know, the organizer feels pity for one of the teams that hasn't won much. And says, okay.
No, Pippas, don't. You can't suggest. No.
For one of his friends.
First is the assumption of the UCI filling out their dinner coffers for the Worlds, and now you suggest they're given out at random. Dearie me. Who could argue with them?
I mean, how would you know?
I don't know. It's all these, just for everyone at home, so we're completely clear on this, particularly if you're new to watching racing like this, all of the riders have timing chip, a kind of passive timing chip, which is stuck to the fork at the front of their bike, and as they go across various timing points, it registers. So there's no one there with a stopwatch or on a motorbike with a stopwatch trying to time people through it. It's all done on a computer. So there must be a data backup somewhere which proves it, I'm sure. But all the same, it's yes, it's interesting. All right, so that's the first time we've seen it say 2 minutes to our 3 leaders up the road.
So it's about just over 20 riders in this chase group, which they're calling the Peloton now.
Yeah, it's really thinned down over the Col d'Ucia. They're now into that sort of jagged, almost semi-plateau over the top that's going to lead to Saint-Maurice and that sprint point to the far north of our circuit. We're getting close to being halfway round this finishing lap for the final time. And hopefully, as they go over the top and start the descent, we're going to get to where we will get some much closer shots to see the makeup of that chasing group of 20 or so. It is now Jimmy Janssens and Marcus Hulgaard out front. Hulgaard, I should say, the Norwegian and the Belgian. And they are now into, that's the start of it, I think, the Proximus radar section. It's impossible. There's absolutely no point us trying to commentate on what we think is happening in the radar section. We will simply wait until the podium presentation to see the random rider who stood behind the podium. If we can't work out what they've won, we reckon they won that. I'm not downing it, by the way. I love it. I think it's always good to see new and different things, but it's almost impossible for us to work it out. I'm hoping on one of the last 2 stages, Pippa, like Smithy said yesterday, that we see a team come to the front just before they get to the Proximus radar section and just drill it, do an enormous lead out.
Well, the thing is, they don't have to be in the front. You know,
they could be anywhere.
They could be anywhere. You know, I'm thinking about it. You know, you could go back to the cars and then come draft in the cars for a bit, and then come whizzing out of there. We have 2 or 3 of you, a couple of hand slings involved.
Yeah.
And then you're sure to get, you're especially in something like this where it's, uphill and you're barely doing 30 kilometers an hour. You could easily, it would be easier to win doing that, kind of team effort.
The beady-eyed amongst those of you watching Jimmy Janssens there pick up his feed will have noticed that, and I've seen this quite a bit over the last 2 years, in actual fact, that the Alpecin de Koning team continue to use that Raymond Poulador-inspired kit for their Swannies, their team carers, in the feed zones as well. It's very easy to spot that kind of purple and...
Yeah, purple and
you
yellow.
Know the one I mean?
Yeah,
Purple and yellow. Yeah.
Personally,
I think it's the best kit they've had. It was really cool, I thought.
I think they called it the Heritage Edition.
Yeah. What are your, as we go through that sprint point, it is going to be Marcus Hulgaard, the Norwegian road champion who takes that, but chances are he hasn't taken the Proximus radar sprint, but he has taken the, which means he gets another 5 points in the Proximus points classification. Here we go. Let's see this. Now, this is interesting because the other was in the breakaway. These guys don't know when to lay down arms, do they? Has he been caught, Pippa? No, he's been picked up by Simon Clark, hasn't he?
Yes.
Must have been.
Yeah, so Simon Clark should have attacked off the front of the Peloton. And he's picked up Shooter who's
trying to hang on to Simon Clark. Simon Clark has been on a real charge the last couple of days, and I found it slightly surprising. I thought he would be there to support the likes of maybe Nick Schultz or Dylan Turns, but I think Simon Clark, in, dare I say it, the slightly more extended period of his career, is on good form this week, by the looks of it, the 38-year-old.
So we saw him yesterday lead out Corbin Strong in that sprint. So obviously feeling very good. I think he finished 10th or something, even though he'd been leading out.
Things are absolutely smashed apart behind, aren't they? I think this is now the group that's chasing Clark.
That was like Cosnefroy and then Trentin come in again. To the front.
I do know what, I'm going to say it now. I wonder whether...
ሰላም ሰላም ነው ማዕጥና ነው ምንስ የቋርጥ 10 ሺህ ኪሎሜትር ታሪክ ነው اوكي اسمع لغه جمجه بقى وጪ መለስሞ صار ግን በጣም اسمع لغه جمجه بقى وጪ መለስሞ